indeed, we are going to have a very pertinent conversation with the General Manager at Cathedral Credit Union. We have with us this morning Gabriella Abdul, and we're talking finances. We're talking coping with financial stress. Very important conversation, especially as we look at mental health and what is happening this month in particular in terms of awareness, mental health awareness. And we're going to go straight into the conversation about finances and coping with finances. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Good morning, Tobago.
Yes, we're doing fine. We tend to, from time to time, have these conversations.
Yes.
Especially considering that persons will be dealing with all kind of stresses.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, amongst the stressors in society today, where would you rank or peg financial stress?
All
and
right.
You could take the opportunity to define exactly that.
Yes, so I think it may be one of the most critical stressors. I think it is one of the most famous ones. And financial stress is it challenges you. So it is anything that will trigger stress on whether it's your mental health, and that, of course, once the mental take effect, of course, it shows up, it manifests in the physical as well. Because when you're stressed out, you get back pain, you get headaches, you're unable to sleep, you're unable to cope generally. So financial stress is a trigger, definitely a trigger. How do you deal with it is another question.
Which is exactly the next question. How do one cope with financial stress? Now, I know it's broad.
Yes.
But persons would be burdened for a period of time and may just be at that point where they don't know where to turn, they don't know what to do. They're struggling to make ends meet. As a matter of fact, sometimes they're struggling to even survive in some cases. How do one cope with financial stress?
Well, we're going to start with a foundation, and that is in the Bible, Matthew 6:27, that says, "Can any of you worrying add 1 hour to their life?" So when you have financial stress, you're often faced with what to do. And sometimes if the answer does not come fast enough, the solution does not come fast enough, you go through a series of emotional trauma that can change your behavior, on how you resolve it. Sometimes, well, this is the fight or flight, where anything that you can try to solve your problem, you might get yourself into. You want to avoid that. What you want to do is take a deep breath. If you worry, you will not be able to find the solutions that you need. Because sometimes you have solutions, but they are not suitable for you. When you're coping with, or when you're trying to cope with financial challenges, the first thing you do is an assessment of yourself. How did you get there in the first place? Those things are very important. Because when you are looking for help, you must be able to tell whoever it is you're seeking help from, whether it's an institution, whether it is through counseling, you must be able to tell them where you went wrong or what you think happened in your life that caused you to be at this place. Once you get that done and over with, you're able to say in your finances, what is necessary and what is not necessary. So you talk about what you can change, what you can cut, what you can do without. Those things are very critical. If you can do without it, it means it's just a matter of severing ties. So you no longer entertain it. So if you're liming every Friday for the month, maybe cut it down to one Friday, right? And of course, that will eliminate the beer money and the food money. Right? So you can do things like that.
But there are persons who may be struggling and they may attempt to do some sort of budgeting. However, there's this skit that I saw recently where the content creator in the skit was basically saying every time they get paid is when problems just come up. Yes. So you're doing your budgeting and things keep coming up, and you may point to, you may say certain things like, why all of this happening to me? You may be in the process of experiencing some sort of discomfort, some sort of trauma, some sort of struggle or stress, as we started saying.
Yes.
How do one deal with those kind of situations where things keep popping up? Is it a budgeting situation where you need to now cater for those contingencies? Speak to us.
It is not always a budgeting situation. Sometimes you have battles on all sides. That is life. That is life for you. Then you need to reach out. The moment you stop communicating, and sometimes when these things happen, when these challenges face us, we tend to retreat. That is the time we have to go out and seek help. Because sometimes the answer is not within, it's without. So you have to go out and get that help. You have to source that help, right? So no man is an island. And I will tell you this, in my own personal life, I also had to seek help outside. It was not always a case where because sometimes you are doing the best you can and doing the best you can with what you have. And that is critical to know. Sometimes you are not doing anything wrong, Life happens.
A very interesting conversation, ladies and gentlemen. We're having a conversation with Gabriella Abdul, the General Manager at Cathedral Credit Union, celebrating or recognizing Mental Health Awareness Month. And it's fitting to have this conversation when we look at financial health or even financial mental health and the association with regards to it. I looked at a study, and they were basically saying that people who have difficulty repaying debts and have a high number of debts have a significantly greater risk for depression and even suicidal thoughts. And this is coming from the Columbia University. A study was done.
Yes. And
when you just read and understand just that basic statement there or data, it reminds you of what happens in our society where individuals may be repaying.
Yes.
And as you mentioned earlier on, may not necessarily seek the necessary help and end up in situations where what else to do? And they may revert to what we would say plasters, temporary fixes, that would even dig them in a deeper hole.
Yes.
Explain how can person maneuver in situations where they are repaying continuously their debts.
Okay, so you have to reach out to your financial institution. You can call Cathedral Credit Union at 235-6947. 235-6947. Call us. What happens in a case like that is sometimes because your levels of stress is so high, you are unable to think yourself out, right? And nothing is wrong with that. So you call. You have to be honest, as I told you. You have to be honest because sometimes what we have found is a lot of the times people give us the debts that will register on the TransUnion report, on the credit report. They don't tell us the 5,000 you borrow from your sister, your cousin, the money lender, and all these things. So you come for the solution, but you're not always very honest. And then you're borrowing, and you have access to the money, but you spend the money before you actually get it. That happens. So you borrow before you spend before you receive. That happens all the time. Right? You have to stop those things. It is a cycle, and a lot of the times it is your approach. So even if you're not bad spending, even if you're not liming, there is a solution, and you just have to find the solution. And finding the solution takes honesty. It takes honesty on your part. You tell us what is happening. Now, if you have debts, obviously, you have debts, it will be over a period of time. Some debts you can clear in 3 months, some in 6 months, some you may have 2 years, 3 years, 10 years. right? What you can do then, the debts that are short-term, let those run. Do not consolidate those debts. Because when you consolidate all your debts, you have one debt, but it is a debt for a long period of time. So you have to remember, even though debt consolidation will give you more disposable income, it also extends the life of your debt. So if you have a debt that is going to expire in 3 months, ride it out. And after the end of 3 months, you will no longer have that debt.
Wow. I'm thinking now, when we look at persons who, for whatever pleasure, they enjoy spending.
Yes.
Right? And that too can aid in a different scenario, as in when you look at a particular type of mental health disorder, you choosing to spend may bring about some sort of comfort as you go about your life.
It's a coping mechanism.
It is a coping mechanism for some. However, it's when you check your books, it's not working out. When we look at those who, yes, they seek the necessary help, yes, they are taking the advice like what you're giving now, but they find themselves in a kind of impulsive kind of coping mechanism. How do they treat with that? Because you become impulsive, you're functioning, but you're making certain decisions that would affect you in the long run.
Right. So for people that have that particular issue, it is better you automate your expenses, the payment of your expenses and your investment. So you have less in your hand.
Right.
So once you limit the amount in your hand, it's not as free as you would have it. So you automate if you're getting paid on the 25th, on the 26th of every month, you automate where your bills are paid on online banking. So you automate all your bills to be paid on that day and all your savings. So $200 will go to shares, $300 to pay your phone bill, $200 for your credit card. And by the way, yes, they will tell you the best thing to do is not have a credit card. I will not say that. The world is going where you need a credit card. Everything is online, right? What you do is limit your credit card. Now, my secret is I have a credit card, but I limited my credit card. My credit card is only $5,000.
Right.
When I spend that, if I have to spend it on anything, what I do is transfer money from my savings and put it on the credit card. Right. So the credit card is always topped up.
Right.
Right? So I have limited myself. So I know that I will not go beyond $5,000. That way, because remember, credit card is a debt. It is a debt, and it is going to form part of your debt service ratio. So the payment, your monthly payment to your credit card is also considered a debt. And that is what it helps to drive your debt service ratio on the higher end. And then it means that you have less access. You have less access. You have limited access to monies. So all these things people have to understand. Pay your bills on time, because it also affects your debt service ratio. A lot of people don't know. If you do not pay your phone bills on time, it is going to negatively affect your credit report. You do pay your loans on time, it will negatively affect it. And negatively affecting your payments means that the institutions will not trust you because you are bad paying your debts.
Wow. We're looking at persons who, and of course, those who are listening to us this morning, this is a pertinent conversation with regards to how we spend and manage our spending and our finances in the climate that we're living in today. But certain persons would have greater responsibilities, whether it be your children, whether it be you are the breadwinner for the household or the family, extended family, or you may have certain investments that you're struggling to maintain. However, it's still part of your responsibilities.
Yeah.
What is the best approach in terms of planning for the future? Because you would have these responsibilities, but you would also consider certain investments, and things may not work out from time to time.
Yes.
But how do one maintain their laser focus when planning for the future?
Right. Start small. Especially if you are trying to come out of a rut, and of a hard place. Start small, because sometimes when you take a bigger bite, it forces you, your mouth gets too full, forces you to open your mouth and everything comes out of it. So you have to break the fixed deposit and you have to break your savings. So start small, take manageable bites. And if it is consistent enough, you will see the growth in no time. And of course, we're going back to the rules, the 50, 30, 20. You have 50% for your expenses, 30% for your wants, and 20% your savings. Build your emergency fund, right? Even if it's $10 a week, it just gives you over $520 or so a year, right? Try little things like that. A lot of the times people feel buying a piggy bank is for children. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just get an empty tin, an empty container, and you glue it down to the floor, and you you drop your dollar there, drop your change, and then at the end of a period you go change it, and you can invest that as well. Start small so that you wouldn't disappoint yourself, you wouldn't frustrate yourself, because all these things create the stressors. And then, of course, it adds to your frustration.
And is there any link, or feel free to describe the link between the other stressors, with financial stress being a major player, interchanging into whether it be other stressors influencing financial stress, or vice versa?
Right. So a lot of the times, if you're under financial constraints, you are not happy. You either plummet into depression, sometimes you get angry because of the decisions you make or you made. Sometimes you are frustrated with yourself, and as far as you're concerned, it's unforgivable what you have done. So you're angry with everybody and everything. You're shouting at your kids. You're no longer happy, you're isolating yourself, you're no longer able to function in the household, function at the office. And then it causes a social issue, right? And then, of course, because you're depressed, it manifests itself into a physical issue. You can't focus, you can't sleep well, your back hurts, everything. So it takes you down a path that sometimes it becomes very difficult, and then you have to be on medication. We are saying you don't have to get that far. Mm-hmm. You have to look for help. Only you know your business. Mm-hmm. Even though people on the outside may look at you and they tell you all the things you're doing wrong, only you know your business. The thing would be to reach out. And I would want to tell the public, if you have a friend or a family member and they are experiencing financial issues or whatever trauma it is they're experiencing, reach out to them as well, because we have to be our brother's keeper. But if you are looking for financial assistance, you can always contact Cathedral Credit Union. Mm-hmm. We have a branch in Tobago, in Milford Road and the Pan Am Building. We are located, our head office is at Edward Street, 113 Edward Street in Port of Spain, corner Edward and Oxford Street. We are reachable by phone, 235-6947, and call us. We are running right now a loan promotion. It's called May Madness. And we are going to give you, even if you now, you can join and access up to $50,000 immediately. Uh-huh. Yes, you can. And we will talk with you before before you take the loan. Very often people come to us, they have debts to clear, but the first question they ask, which is very interesting, how much I could get. Don't do things like that because you're trying to get out of a rut. You know, take what you need. Yes, you may be able to access funds over what you really need, but sometimes it's unnecessary because you're getting yourself into debt. Yes, loans, that is how we make money, the credit union, because it's not for profit and lending is our core business, but we do not want to hurt our members. Right? So we will not lend you money that will hurt you. We're not going to do that. We will talk you through, we will advise you accordingly, and that is why our interest rates are very, very good.
Yeah.
So, you know, contact us and we're here for you and we will do our best to do our bit and give back to society.
And I guess I will leave it right there. Ladies and gentlemen, the General Manager for Cathedral Credit Union, Gabriella Abdul, speaking to financial stress, but more so advising on how we can cope with financial stress. And I guess the common part of your responses was predominantly seeking the necessary help.
That's
and you
what
can
it
seek
is,
the necessary help as soon as possible. I know we have pride from time to time when dealing with specific sensitive issues, but however you can acquire that help, you should reach out. And thank you very much for being with us this morning and sharing this information. Of course, the contact information once more before we leave.
Yes, 235-6947, and we're reachable and we will not judge you. Whatever you discuss with us is confidential, and you can ask for us. Any one of the loans officers you can ask to talk to. You can also speak with me. I promise that once I am available, I will get back to you.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. Of course, this was a special interview as we continue to raise awareness with regards to mental health, but this time we looked at finances and mental health in particular. So, thank you again. And